In December 2008, legendary investor Whitney Tilson explained to 60 Minutes anchor Scott Pelley that there would be a second wave of the U.S. mortgage crisis, but nevertheless, the stock market would soar. Soon after, stocks started the biggest bull market run in U.S. history. Then, in March 2015, Tilson appeared again on 60 Minutes, this time with Anderson Cooper, and revealed a huge scandal at one of America's largest home improvement companies, Lumber Liquidators. Soon after, the company's stock price fell nearly 80%. And that brings us to today. Whitney Tilson, one of the most famous former hedge fund managers in America, who's appeared twice on national television to explain major financial news stories, is stepping forward again. But this time, he's not waiting for 60 Minutes. Instead, he's revealing the full story here first. Tilson has met with President Clinton and Obama, attended Warren Buffett's last 21 Berkshire Hathaway meetings, and spoken at the country's most prestigious business schools such as Harvard, Columbia, and Wharton. And today, he's going public with details on what he calls the biggest economic and financial story in America that almost no one is talking about. Tilson says the recent convergence of two incredible new technologies will soon dramatically change the value of homes and real estate all over the country. Put as much as $6,000 a year back into most U.S. families' bank accounts. Force the radical overhaul of the tax code in almost every city and small town in America. Transform the energy business, the insurance industry, and parts of the healthcare industry. All while saving millions of lives and making early investors a potential fortune. Why should you pay attention to Whitney Tilson's latest big prediction? For one simple reason. He has one of the best track records in America when it comes to pinpointing the most profitable stock market moves. Consider, he called the exact day Bitcoin would peak in value, and the exact hour marijuana stocks would start their big collapse. More recently, just after the stock market bottomed during the coronavirus crisis, Tilson said, "This is the absolute best time to be an investor in more than a decade." He was exactly right. Stocks had the best quarter in more than 20 years. There's probably not another financial analyst in the world who can make these claims. Tilson has also accurately predicted the decline of 88 different stocks, including 3 bankruptcies. He even helped oust the CEO of America's most famous rental car company, which filed for bankruptcy earlier this year. And along the way, Tilson also purchased for his clients many of the most valuable stocks in recent history, long before they were household names, including Netflix when it was $7.78 a share, Apple at $1.42 per share, and Amazon at $48 a share. This is why CNBC once nicknamed Whitney Tilson the Prophet, and why it's critical for you to take a few minutes to hear about the huge new trend Tilson has identified. Today, the convergence of two brand new technologies have hit a tipping point, and as a result, a new technological development has started to roll out in California, Arizona, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Texas, Florida, and Washington, D.C. And despite the coronavirus, this has sent the investment world into a recent frenzy. In late June, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, spent $1.2 billion to acquire key components of these technologies. Bezos knows this breakthrough will transform not only his business, but also your life. Stock market investors have finally started to catch on, too. An Ohio company working on this technology has just soared an incredible 500% in the past month and a half. A California company, considered the leader in this space, is up more than 260% since the start of the year. And a Phoenix company working on this breakthrough recently shot up 104% in a single day. But it's not just the investment gains that are so remarkable. As you'll see, the spread of this technology across America is going to change everything. From the way you eat, shop, work, and travel, to the value of our homes and where you live. It will radically alter the price you pay for everything from airline and train tickets to a tank of gas, and even household goods. Unfortunately, however, says Tilson, there's a downside to this story too. The convergence of these two radical new technologies is also going to cause a lot of people to lose money. Dozens of well-known businesses are likely to go bankrupt, But the truth is, Tilson believes the positive effects of this radical development far outweigh the negatives. And that's why he's going public with the full story today. He says, this is not something that might happen. It's inevitable, 100% guaranteed to take place. In fact, it's already underway in multiple cities, including Phoenix, Boston, and San Jose. The only question is, when will it hit your hometown? Today, Whitney Tilson will explain everything you need to know, including the full details on his single favorite investment in this space. You'll learn the stock name, the ticker symbol, and the recommended buy up to price of an incredibly profitable company, which is head and shoulders above all others in this technology race. Again, you'll get the name and stock symbol of this investment totally free of charge right here in this presentation. All you have to do is stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Whitney Tilson, and today I want to tell you about the biggest financial story in America, which is not getting nearly enough attention in the mainstream press. Despite the coronavirus pandemic and all the news coverage you see on other hot technological breakthroughs, such as 5G and robotics, artificial intelligence and virtual reality, blockchain and quantum computers, most people are completely missing out on the big investment story. As you'll see, we are at a seminal moment in American history. An enormous sea change is coming to our society, and an investing frenzy has just begun. We are seeing gains as big as 100% in a single day and 500% or more in less than 2 months. The thing is, this investing frenzy is just getting started, so it's critical for you to understand what's taking place right now. Earlier this year, I spent all day visiting the major producers and suppliers of the key components behind this technology at the most important tech conference in the world, the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. And despite everything that's happened in the crazy year that's been 2020, I'm now more convinced than ever that almost everyone is going to be stunned by how quickly this new development will advance and roll out across America. I've already reached out to CNBC to get this story on a major television network, but just as I've done in the past, I'm not going to wait for them to make it public. So I'm sharing everything I've uncovered here first. Today, you can be among the first to hear about the biggest technological change in America we've seen in many, many years. And I'll even reveal, totally free of charge, my favorite stock market investment to take advantage of the situation. You don't have to give me your email address, your credit card, or anything like that. Just stay tuned. A year from now, this story will be all over the news. But today, hardly anyone is taking it seriously. Let's get started. What most people don't understand about technology is that the really big disruptions, the ones that make people rich and change our lives, are almost never the result of a single invention. Instead, it's the convergence of several new technologies and often a new business model too. Take personal computers, for example. They were introduced in 1977 when the Apple II, the Commodore PET, and Radio Shack's TRS-80 all made their debut. It was the advent of the hard drive by IBM, integrated circuits, integrated computer systems, and other important breakthroughs which made it all possible. PCs changed our world and created fortunes. Intuit's software let people do their own taxes, and the company's share price soared 1,900%. Cisco built hardware and software, and its stock went up by more than 3,000%. And Western Digital perfected PC hard drives. Shares went up more than 1,900% over the long term. The Internet, which went live in 1991, was also a combination of multiple breakthroughs. The Department of Defense's ARPANET technology first linked 4 computers together in 1969, and the advent of breakthroughs such as packet switching, transmission control protocol, and hypertext markup language made the Internet a reality. And again, it made investors wealthy. Amazon is up more than 228,000% since the early days. eBay shares are up almost 12,000% since going public. Priceline, now called Booking, is up 33,000% over the long term. The same thing happened a few years ago with smartphones. Steve Jobs first introduced the iPhone with a call to a nearby Starbucks in 2007. And it was all possible because of the convergence of technologies like high-speed modems, seamless roaming, GPS, digital imaging, touch screens, which IBM first put in a phone in 1992, and many more. And yet again, people got rich. Apple shares are up more than 2,500% since the iPhone debuted in 2007. Cell phone chipmaker Broadcom has seen its share price soar 2,500% over 15 years. And Lam Research, which makes the semiconductor processing equipment, is up more than 2,500% in roughly the last decade. Today, the same thing is about to happen again. A slew of new technologies are leading us to a new development, a transformation called TaaS. In a decade or less, it will be hard to imagine how we survived before this transformation took place. Just as today, it's hard to imagine how we functioned before smartphones. And it's all going to happen much, much faster than almost anyone thinks. Let me show you what is rapidly unfolding. How it's going to make some people a fortune over the next few years and bankrupt others, while transforming our lives in ways that are almost unimaginable right now. Remember, I'm also going to give you, totally free of charge, my #1 favorite way to invest in this technological breakthrough today. I'll reveal the stock name and ticker symbol in just a few minutes. I did something very similar not long ago. Back in 2002, I saw the convergence of the internet, faster data transmission, and a new business model, on-demand streaming TV and movie services, in a company I'm sure you're familiar with, Netflix. I was extremely skeptical of this new model at first, but wanted to learn more. So I flew to California and had lunch with Reed Hastings, Netflix's founder and CEO. After learning more, I became a huge believer, and when the stock got cheap enough, I loaded up on shares in my hedge funds and went on CNBC telling everyone how Netflix was a screaming buy. A year later, the stock was up sixfold, the beginning of a run that ended up being a 3,000% gain in only 6.5 years after I made that call. I think the situation before us today is very similar. Two incredible technologies are just now hitting a tipping point, and when you combine those breakthroughs with a new business model that's already proving to be incredibly powerful, it's going to completely transform our world over the next few years. Here's what you need to know. The technology I want to tell you about today is known in Silicon Valley and Manhattan as TaaS, and if you've never heard of it, you soon will. TaaS stands for Transportation as a Service. And while it might not sound like a very high-tech name, it's possible only because of the convergence of dozens of new, incredible technologies, including two big new technologies in particular. It's also 100% guaranteed to completely transform our daily lives. Just for starters, it will dramatically change the value of homes and real estate all over the country. It will put an estimated $5,600 back into the hands of 93% of U.S. families every year. It will dramatically change the value of your car. For most people, this is a big deal because cars are most people's second biggest purchases after housing. TaaS will result in the collapse of oil prices. It will radically change the tax structure of almost every city and small town in America. That's because estimates show that Chicago, for example, will lose at least $250 million in revenue because of TaaS. Los Angeles will lose more than $140 million. New York will lose $500 million every single year. TaaS will also radically change the insurance industry and the healthcare industry, saving millions of lives. In fact, at the end of the day, TaaS might be the biggest medical innovation in decades, even though it has nothing to do with pills or new equipment. And it's already starting to make some people a lot of money. Despite the coronavirus, one company in this space recently soared 104% in a single day. Another firm has soared 260% since the start of this year. And a third business based in Ohio has shot up more than 500% in the past month and a half. But what is TaaS exactly? And why is it going to so radically alter life as we know it here in America and around the globe? Let me explain. One of the two critical technologies hitting a tipping point right now is the electric vehicle. Now maybe you think EVs are not a new technology in the typical sense, and in a way you're right. But what's radically changed is how the key technology to making EVs work, batteries, have improved at an incredible rate in recent years. Battery storage used to cost about $1,000 per kilowatt hour back in 2010. Today it's more like $200 per kilowatt hour, and soon it will be less than $100 per kilowatt hour. This is a huge deal because it means electric cars can go now up to nearly 400 miles on a single charge, and soon we'll be able to go up to 600 miles on one charge. And because battery technology is not only getting better, but also a lot cheaper, the crossover point, when electric vehicles are actually cheaper to purchase than their gas-powered equivalent, is projected to start in just 2022. In fact, every year Bloomberg has to update its model for the crossover point. Look at how they keep changing their projections as the cost of electric vehicles keeps plummeting. In 2007, they estimated 2026, 9 years later. In 2018, it was 2024, only 6 years later. In 2019, it was 2022, 3 years later. Now look, I know many people do not believe electric vehicles will soon make gas-powered ones obsolete. But I assure you, with 100% certainty, this is happening, and for one simple reason: economics. The truth is, gas-powered vehicles no longer make economic sense. Tony Seba, a Stanford economist who's done more work in this field than anyone else I know of, has proven that electric vehicles are about to be 90% cheaper to operate than gas-powered cars. And throughout history, whenever a new technology brings about a 90% price reduction, it wins every single time. Just look at the facts. Consumer Reports estimates it costs about $15,000 to fill up a Jeep Liberty over 5 years if you drive 12,000 miles per year. An electric Jeep Liberty would cost less than $1,600 to fuel over the same period of time, according to Seba. Think about that. It costs 10 times more money to operate a gas vehicle compared to an electric one. And fuel savings are just the beginning. Where you really see massive savings is with service and maintenance. The drivetrain of a conventional car has as many as 2,000 moving parts versus as few as 20 in an electric car. Electric cars and trucks have motors, not engines, so they don't need to shift gears. And they don't need oil, spark plugs, air filters, coolant, or transmission fluid. There's essentially zero maintenance besides rotating the tires. And get this, while a conventional car typically lasts 150,000 miles, or perhaps 200,000 miles if you really push it, electric car motors can last 500,000 miles, perhaps even 1,000,000 miles or more. This is why some electric car makers warranty the drive unit for up to 8 years and unlimited miles. No gas-powered car will ever come with a warranty like that. Think about it this way. If you have the choice to get essentially the same car, but one is cheaper to buy, costs 90% less to maintain and use on a daily basis, and lasts up to 5 times longer, which car will you buy? In just a few years, no one in his right mind is going to buy a new gas-powered vehicle. What so many people are missing right now is that this shift to EVs isn't about the environment or going green. Again, it's all about economics. This is one of the big reasons why the Model 3 Tesla was by far the best-selling small to mid-sized luxury car sold in America last year. Look at this chart. If you don't believe electric cars will almost completely displace gas-powered vehicles, well, I respect your opinion, but I promise you, you are 100% dead wrong. Did you watch the Super Bowl this year? Every automaker is touting their shift to EVs. Audi advertised its newest electric vehicle coming out this summer. Porsche ran its first Super Bowl commercial in 23 years, touting its electric sports car, the Taycan. Even Hummer, a brand most people remember as a gas guzzler left for dead, advertised its new all-electric vehicle. This is the future of cars and trucks in America, and it's all about economics. Of course, I haven't even mentioned how many ways electric vehicles are more fun to drive too. Because they have no transmission, power goes straight to the wheels, which means electric cars can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour a lot faster than all but the most expensive gas-powered vehicles. Did you see the specs of the new electric Hummer advertised on the Super Bowl, for example? It will tout a ridiculous 1,000 horsepower and 1,500 pound-feet of torque, more than twice the amount of a standard Ford F-150. Plus, it will go from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. None of that is possible with a regular gas engine. This is why, in the US alone, research from EV adoption suggests that EV sales will jump nearly 700% from 2019 to 2028. The look from a global perspective over the next decade is even more impressive. And yes, this is partly why Tesla's stock has soared more than 300% in less than a year. More and more analysts and investors are starting to get the big picture. This is a big, big trend you want to learn how to get in on right now. Mark my words, in 5 years, electric vehicles will account for more than half and perhaps much more of all new cars sold in the United States. Electric vehicles are simply a superior technology with rapidly declining prices. And today they are even being subsidized with government incentives. Plus they're environmentally friendly to boot and quiet too. This is why, as CNN recently reported, established car makers around the world are ripping up their business models in the hope of adapting to a new world in which electricity replaces gasoline and diesel. Even companies that aren't typically in the car business are now producing electric cars. For example, leading electronics maker Sony just unveiled a prototype of a beautiful electric car at the Consumer Electronics Show I recently attended. Apple is also rumored to be working on the Apple Car, which could debut in the next 2 years. And get this, in China there are 400 different companies working on electric cars, in large part because almost every Asian nation, including not only China, but also India, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, is planning to soon ban the sales of new gas-powered and diesel-powered vehicles. It's all going to be electric, here in America and everywhere around the world. And we've clearly hit a tipping point. Sales of electric vehicles have been growing around 60% per year since 2014, which means the number of electric vehicles on the road is doubling roughly every 14 months around the world. In 2018, electric vehicles went up 85% in a single year in the US. This is how disruptive technologies get adopted. At first, it seems like a slow trickle. Just the early adopters are in on it. But then the technology hits a tipping point and the masses pile in. Again, this is all happening for one simple reason: economics. And it's already making investors rich. TVS Motor Company, a maker of electric vehicles, is up almost 1,300% since 2013. Electra Green Tech, which makes EV power transmissions, is up 310% since March 2016. NXP, which makes semiconductors for EV, is up 400% since April 2013. SQM, a producer of lithium for batteries, is up 165% since July 2015. And in recent months, despite the coronavirus, an investing frenzy in this space has begun. Electric truck maker Nikola recently soared 104% in a single day. Spartan Energy shot up 71% in 2 days. Visteon, a Ford spinout that makes cockpit electronics, is up almost 80% in 3 months. And of course, Tesla, America's leading electric car maker, is up 260% since the start of this year. The electric delivery van firm Workhorse is up more than 500% in less than 2 months. So that's the first part of TaaS. Electric vehicles are quickly displacing gas-powered cars and trucks. But remember, that's only half the story. The other part is even bigger. While electric vehicles are disrupting the automotive world, EVs alone won't truly disrupt our society or the entire economy. But when you pair EVs with another disruptive technology, self-driving vehicles controlled by very powerful computers, it will be completely transformative. Sooner than most people think, you'll be able to hail an electric self-driving vehicle via an app on your phone, just like you hail Lyft and Uber today. And this is TaaS, which stands for Transportation as a Service. TaaS will essentially mean a fleet of electric autonomous cars that can go 500 or more miles without charging, which can go more than 100,000 miles a year with little maintenance. It's basically how Uber and Lyft operate today, but with electric driverless vehicles. You'll be able to hail different types of vehicles for whatever you need. A small car for a quick trip, a luxury vehicle for a long ride, a truck if necessary. There will soon be fleets of electric driverless vehicles on our streets, ready to be hailed from your phone at a moment's notice. Estimates are that TaaS will reduce the total cost of transportation by 10 times compared to owning your own vehicle. TaaS could soon drive down our cost of transportation to just 10 cents or less per mile. Today it costs about 80 cents per mile in our gas-powered cars, according to AAA. Think about that. I could soon walk out of my Manhattan home and comfortably ride to the nation's capital in a TaaS vehicle for less than $25, or even less if I'm willing to share the car. Today, with a private car or Amtrak, it costs me 5 times as much. And instead of paying $50,000 for a new car, plus $3,000 a year to fill up your tank, and $1,000 to $4,000 a year for insurance, you'll instead spend something like $150 a month for unlimited rides with a TaaS subscription. This will disrupt the entire economy. As Tony Seba reports, I have looked back at disruptions going all the way back to Gutenberg. Every time there's a 10x improvement in cost for the same product or service, there's been a major disruption. Every single time. I know of no case where 10x improvement did not lead to disruption. Now, before you dismiss TaaS as a crazy idea, keep in mind that the first TaaS services are already in place and operating today. Right now, Google's driverless car division, called Waymo, has self-driving cars all over Phoenix. There's no driver at all. It's a completely automated ride in an electric vehicle. You just download the Waymo app or use Lyft to hail a driverless ride. Thousands of people are using this service every day, and they've completed more than 100,000 total driverless rides. ARK Invest predicts that once Waymo has expanded its Phoenix fleet to 80,000 vehicles, it could address half of the city's travel needs. A company called Aptiv has also partnered with Lyft and has provided 100,000 autonomous rides in Las Vegas. It serves more than 3,400 hotels, restaurants, entertainment venues, and the Las Vegas Convention Center. They'll soon start picking up riders at the airport as well. Aptiv also has autonomous vehicles operating in Boston and Pittsburgh. In San Jose, California, Mercedes-Benz and Bosch have launched autonomous ride-hailing vehicles that will take riders between West San Jose and downtown. This is the future, and the future is already here right now. TaaS is going to be rolling out all over the country sooner than you can imagine. And here's the thing, this is all going to have incredible life-changing impacts on the world around us. Consider. Did you know that every year in America, around 40,000 people die in car crashes and another 4 million are seriously injured? Worldwide, more than 1 million people die in car crashes each year and another 50 million are injured. But these figures could plummet by at least 80% and eventually 90% or more with TaaS because 95% of accidents are caused by human error. It will be the equivalent of one of the greatest medical breakthroughs in history for both the number of lives it will save and the injuries it will prevent. Yes, there have been accidents with autonomous vehicles, and there will surely be more. But keep in mind, every day in America, more than 100 people die on the roads with humans behind the wheel. And Waymo has driven 20 million autonomous miles on real roads in the real world and has not had a single serious accident. The next generation in America will look back with horror at how we allowed so many people to die and suffer serious injuries from traffic accidents with humans behind the wheel. Today, some families have to spend as much as 40% of their household budgets on transportation, but not for long. Think about the boost to our economy when families have an extra $6,000 back in their pocket each year. It's going to inject more than $1 trillion into the U.S. economy alone. And think about what all of this means for individual car ownership. It will soon disappear, except for those who love driving their cars on special roads for fun. In fact, look at this chart. Right now, 2020 is projected to be the year of peak car individual ownership. The same thing will happen to today's gas-powered cars that happened to horses 100 years ago. They'll become an expensive luxury for wealthy folks who enjoy them in their spare time, off the major thoroughfares. You have to realize that today, cars are our biggest economic waste because we use them just 4% of the time. With TaaS, there will be a huge reduction in the number of cars on the road. Some say the number of cars we'll need will drop by 80%. Many automakers will go out of business as a result. Over the next few years, you do not want to own traditional indebted car companies like GM. You also do not want to own most publicly traded car dealerships or car lenders like Santander and Consumer USA. Nor do you want to own companies that sell personal car insurance like Progressive or Allstate, or focus on repairing or servicing them like AutoZone, Midas, or Precision Tune Auto Care. And that brings me to without individual car ownership, traditional parking lots as we know them today will be all but eliminated. TaaS fleets will retreat to cheap parking in inexpensive locations for recharging or service, or during low demand times like the middle of the night. So think about this for a second. Imagine a world in which nearly all of the parking lots located on prime land can be converted into new offices, housing, businesses, parks and playgrounds, and other useful spaces. It's mind-blowing. Did you know, for example, that approximately 1/3 of the land of some cities is occupied by parking lots? According to one estimate, all of the parking space in Los Angeles alone is equal to 3 cities the size of San Francisco. Closer to home, think about what you could do with the space you currently use for parking cars. Your garage could be converted into a great new living space, for starters. But some industries are going to suffer dramatically, of course, as all this unfolds. In the coming years, everything that moves will be electric and autonomous. Not just cars, but also delivery trucks, buses, tractors, wheelchairs, forklifts, farm equipment, and even scooters, bikes, motorcycles, and boats are now testing electric power. In fact, the Boeing-backed and JetBlue-backed startup called Zunum Aero is working on planes and helicopters that will use electric power and will debut in the next year or two. An airline called Harbour Air, which operates short flights in British Columbia, is adding a battery-powered plane to their fleet, and the company's CEO says all its planes will eventually be electric. A construction equipment company called Komatsu recently announced a small electric excavator. Stena Line, which operates ferries between Sweden and Denmark, is rolling out battery-powered ferries. This is going to have the biggest impact of all on one huge industry: oil. The entire industry, starting with the high-cost producers like Canada's oil sands, is going to get crushed. Oil won't go away entirely, of course, but demand will fall significantly. The long-term price of oil could get cut in half to around $25 a barrel. And that brings me to perhaps the most important thing you need to think about overall. This disruption is going to have a massive domino effect on so many industries and aspects of our lives. For example, states and municipalities that rely on parking fees, car and gas taxes, and traffic violations for large parts of their budgets are going to have to completely rethink their revenue sources. Chicago collects more than $250 million per year in parking tickets alone. Los Angeles collects more than $140 million, and New York collects more than $500 million. All of this city revenue is going away. Real estate values will shift too. Soon there will no longer be a big discrepancy between neighborhoods that have good access to public transportation and those that don't. Houses in high-density neighborhoods that come with private parking will no longer sell for a premium. Travel for the young and the elderly will be much easier, safer, and more affordable than ever. Most Americans soon won't need car insurance at all. The used car market will plummet too. Soon you may have to pay someone to take a gas-powered car off your hands. The major changes for our society are just mind-boggling, and again, they are already starting. Don't think for a minute that this is too far in the future to think about. It's happening right now. The domino effects from this trend are enormous. Just like the smartphone inspired dozens of new apps and uses, TaaS driverless systems will do the same. IKEA, for example, is working on an autonomous electric-powered office on wheels so you can work or meet while heading down the road. And the rollout is going to happen across America much faster than most people think. People always overestimate how long a revolutionary breakthrough like this will take to reach massive scale, and that's the big mistake many are making today too. Let me show you what I mean. Back in 1995, Microsoft founder Bill Gates knew more about personal computers than just about anyone on the planet. But he completely underestimated how fast the internet would spread and disrupt our economy and his business. In his 1995 book, The Road Ahead, Gates wrote, "The internet has enormous potential, but it's important that expectations aren't cranked too high." Gates' own people got nowhere trying to push him into the browser business, and Gates was lucky to correct his mistake quickly, because by 1996, internet adoption hit a tipping point, as you can see from this chart. Incredibly, the same thing happens with every big new disruptive technology. It creeps along slowly for years, and then boom, it hits a tipping point when adoption rates go through the roof, much faster than what the experts have predicted. Back in 1985, for example, AT&T hired McKinsey, the world's leading consulting firm, to predict the adoption rate of cell phones. McKinsey's experts predicted the cell phone market would total 900,000 customers by the year 2000. But they were off by more than 100-fold. The actual number turned out to be 109 million. You see this again and again. Every time a truly disruptive innovation enters the marketplace, nearly everyone underestimates how quickly it will catch on and disrupt the status quo. The same thing happened when the iPhone came out in 2007. A Bloomberg analyst wrote, "The iPhone's impact will be minimal. Nokia and Motorola have nothing to worry about." Even Steve Ballmer, who had succeeded Bill Gates as the CEO of Microsoft, said, "There's no chance that the iPhone is going to get any significant market share. No chance." More recently, the same thing happened with Uber. A 2013 USA Today story by a transportation insider said that apps such as Lyft, Sidecar, and UberX are based on a fantasy world where the market self-corrects and solves everything. It's a dream that will end badly. One of the best-known tech writers wrote in 2012, "As of about 10 minutes ago, the Uber app has taken its place in the dustbin of services. I'll just have to live without." Uber started in an apartment in 2009 and within just 7 years was booking more rides than the entire US taxi industry. And it all happened for one simple reason. The same reason TaaS fleets will soon rule our streets: economics. TaaS will be 10 times cheaper than buying and operating your own gas-powered vehicle, and it will completely eliminate the need to hunt around for a parking spot when you reach your destination. The point is, anyone who tells you that fleets of autonomous vehicles are going to take a decade or more has simply not studied the history of technological disruptions, is not paying attention to what's going on today, and does not understand the financial markets. Because if there's one thing you must understand about making money as an investor, it's this: the financial markets are always forward-looking. Investors always want to know and invest their money into what's coming next. And what we are seeing right now is a tidal wave of money coming into this space. Amazon has ordered 100,000 electric vans from Michigan-based startup Rivian, which will eventually drive themselves. And in June 2020, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos spent an estimated $1.2 billion to purchase an entire autonomous vehicle company called Zoox. The Wall Street Journal said, "The plan for Zoox is to continue development of its robot taxi, an electric vehicle that it has been working on, with Amazon investing money in Zoox so it can deploy these vehicles." Waymo ordered 62,000 self-driving Pacifica minivans to be on the road starting in 2020. Qualcomm is working with Lincoln on the self-driving MKZ, which debuted at the recent Consumer Electronics Show I attended in Vegas. Intel has partnered with BMW, Nissan, Volkswagen, and Ferrari North America on autonomous vehicles. NVIDIA has partnered with Toyota, Audi, Mercedes, Volvo, and many more. Baidu, the Google of China, has partnered with Ford, BMW, Daimler, Chrysler, and dozens more. Apple invested $1 billion in the ride-hailing service Didi Chuxing. GM invested $500 million in Lyft. Google has invested billions in Waymo. Their purchase of 62,000 self-driving Chrysler minivans alone cost about $2.8 billion. Why? Because as the firm ARK Invest recently reported, this is a $10 trillion market opportunity. A study by Intel, the world's largest maker of computer chips, has even more staggering predictions. They say the market for driverless vehicles, including trucks, buses, and delivery vans, will eventually hit $7 trillion per year. The point is, there's simply nothing bigger than this in the investment world. That's why the money is pouring into this space. And that's why every single day, new breakthroughs, partnerships, and deals are announced. In San Francisco, a General Motors self-driving car called Cruise safely drives the streets, making 1,400 left turns every single day to perfect the technology. The state of California just approved autonomous delivery vehicles for things like pizza and groceries. And a company called Plus AI just completed America's first coast-to-coast commercial freight run with an autonomous truck. The trip covered 2,800 miles through rain and snow, including 11,000 feet of elevation in the Colorado Rockies, traveling from California to Pennsylvania in less than 3 days. And this is just in America. In many places around the world, autonomous vehicles are advancing even more quickly than here at home. In China, the country's leading autonomous driving company called WeRide has just announced the first program in one of China's biggest cities. Dozens of WeRide's robo-taxis are providing rides in a very congested 144 square kilometer area. You can hail a ride in one of these robotaxis with the app called WeRideGo. China is not only the world's fastest growing car market, it's also the #1 seller of electric cars. In Singapore, the local government announced that the entire western part of the country will be opened up to autonomous vehicles. It's all moving incredibly fast, and the money to be made is extraordinary. If you want to see one simple stat that sums up how quickly this technology is improving and how fast it's moving, check this out. Waymo announced recently that it took 10 years to reach 10 million miles of autonomous cars on public roads. But the next 10 million miles took just a single year. My point is, autonomous vehicles are not the future, they are here right now. Yes, today they exist in only a few cities, in limited geofenced locations, but this is going to expand rapidly. Geofencing, if you're not familiar with the term, allows autonomous vehicle companies to create a virtual boundary, a GPS perimeter beyond which vehicles can't go. This allows companies to have the confidence their vehicles can safely navigate the area where they are allowed. Over time, the geofenced areas get bigger and bigger until eventually autonomous vehicles can cover entire cities and eventually the entire country. This is why the first time you see autonomous cars come to your hometown, they won't be driving everywhere. Instead, they'll be geofenced, limited to certain areas. You might first be able to get an autonomous vehicle at your local airport, for example, which might take you to 100 different drop-off points. Or you first might be able to use an autonomous vehicle in a certain part of downtown. This is how autonomous vehicles are operating right now in California, Arizona, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Texas, Florida, and Washington, D.C. But there's another point you have to understand too. Even though this trend may take a few years to roll out, if you want to capture the biggest investment gains, you must act now. Already, early investors are getting rich. Look at some of these recent results. Aptiv, with 70,000 autonomous taxis in Vegas, is up 450% since November 2011. NVIDIA, the leading AV chip maker, is up 24% since August 2014. Intel, the CPU manufacturer and owner of Mobileye, is up almost 300% since 2012. And as I mentioned earlier, an investment frenzy has begun in recent weeks. Electric truck maker Nikola recently soared 104% in a single day. Spartan Energy shot up 71% in 2 days. Visteon is up almost 80% in 3 months. And Tesla is up 260% since the start of 2020. And the electric delivery van firm Workhorse is up more than 500% in less than 2 months. The time to get in is now, and to position yourself properly, I strongly suggest you make 4 investments immediately. Remember, at the beginning of this presentation, I told you I'd give you the name and ticker of a fantastic TaaS company you should buy right away. That company is Waymo, which by most accounts is the leader in autonomous vehicles. Waymo is owned by Google, known now as Alphabet, and they are the clear leaders in this space. Look at this chart. Waymo has driven more autonomous miles than anyone else in the real world, more than 20 million miles as of today. As I mentioned earlier, Waymo has already launched an autonomous vehicle ride-hailing service in Arizona called Waymo One. And to expand their services, Waymo has purchased up to 62,000 self-driving Chrysler minivans. They are working with Jaguar to build up to 20,000 self-driving SUVs. Morgan Stanley values Waymo at more than $100 billion. Eventually, we think it will be spun out of Alphabet, the parent company of Google, and become its own company. What makes this such a great investment is that you can buy Alphabet today, which is a great cash-gushing business, and pay essentially nothing for Waymo. When shares are spun out over the next few years, you stand to profit in an enormous way. In other words, buying Waymo right now is an incredibly safe way to invest in the TaaS revolution that's just now hitting a tipping point. So that's the first investment you should make. Buy Waymo by purchasing shares of Alphabet, which owns 100% of Waymo. The stock symbol is Google, G-O-O-G-L, and I recommend that you not pay more than $1,800 per share. But here's the thing, that's a lot of money for a single share, and big gains here are likely to take at least a few years to play out. The good news is there are several other ways to make a lot more money more quickly. And that brings me to investment number 2. The best thing you can do as an investor is position yourself in front of a massive, inevitable, and booming trend, one that looks like this. Although you won't find this reported in many places, sales of electric cars are going to be up about 60% a year and will increase by more than 700% over the next decade. According to Bloomberg, there will be 500 EV models available worldwide by 2022. This is an amazing boom quietly taking place. Like the boom that took place with smartphones beginning in 2007, EVs are already a superior technology with rapidly declining prices. As a bonus, they are also being mandated by governments around the world. In at least 13 countries around the world, they've announced plans to phase out gas-powered vehicles, including China, France, and Canada. Britain, for example, has just pledged to eventually ban sales of all cars except electric vehicles. Think about that. No new gasoline, diesel, or hybrid cars will be allowed to be sold, period. And this trend is going to play out much faster than most people expect. Electric vehicles will soon account for more than half of the North American and European car markets in just 5 years or less. And sooner than most people think, electric vehicles will account for 100% of all new car sales in America. As I've said, we are just starting to see an investment frenzy in this space. Tesla stock has been skyrocketing all year. Electric car maker Nikola recently shot up 100% in a single day, and electric delivery van manufacturer Workhorse is up more than 500% in less than 2 months. The key to making a fortune in this space is not to try and guess which company will win. Remember, in addition to Tesla, GM, Ford, and other US manufacturers, there are some 400 electric car makers in China alone. And my auto industry expert tells me another 200 electric models are scheduled to be available in the next 36 months. That's why the absolute best thing you can do is to simply take a significant stake in the best technology and the critical components that every electric car uses. Luckily for you and me, there's a very simple and easy way to do that with one simple investment. It lets you own the best electric car technology and the components every electric car needs. It's the perfect way to invest in the booming future for electric cars. This investment is up 60% since last summer. It's up more than 130% since the start of 2016, and I expect it to absolutely soar in value in the years to come. In my new report called The #1 Way to Profit on the Electric Vehicle Boom, I'll give you all the details, including the name of this investment, the ticker symbol, and my instructions on how to get in at the best possible price. I'll tell you exactly what price to pay, but I can't give that information out here in this presentation. And that brings me to investment number 3. Driverless vehicles are becoming a reality today because of a dramatic confluence of many technologies. Computing power, cameras, sensors, laser rangefinders called LiDAR, GPS, and artificial intelligence software, just to name a few. But my team and I believe there are 2 companies responsible for by far the most critical components for the best self-driving cars. The first company makes the most technologically advanced brain and nervous system for autonomous vehicles. This firm has already partnered with many of the leading companies in this space, including BMW, Hyundai, Audi, Intel, and Lyft, just to name a few. This technology helped complete the longest automated drive ever from San Francisco to New York City, and was selected by one national government to be the technology behind a country's autonomous taxis set to hit the road in 2022. This stock is still a great bargain today, and I strongly recommend you take a stake. I think you could make many times your money in the next few years. The other key technology you want to own in the driverless technology space is the company that provides the computing power for many of today's driverless vehicles. This is critical for every autonomous vehicle. Already, this company has partnered with many of the world's leading vehicle manufacturers like Toyota, Volkswagen, Mercedes, and Volvo, plus trucking companies like Peterbilt and Kenworth, auto parts makers like Bosch and Continental, tech firms like Sony and Panasonic, and research institutions like Berkeley, Carnegie Mellon, MIT, and Stanford. Again, you want to own this company starting immediately because you could make many times your money in the next few years. By simply owning these 2 companies, I think you could make a fortune as autonomous vehicles are rolled out all over the world. Remember, the best thing you can do as an investor is to position yourself in front of a massive, inevitable trend, and then just sit back and enjoy the spectacular ride. This is how I made a fortune with Netflix. It's how I made a killing with Amazon. It's how I made a small fortune with JetBlue Airways, Berkshire Hathaway, and more. In my new report called The 2 Critical Driverless Technologies You Must Own Today, I'll explain everything you need to know. There's no doubt in my mind these investment recommendations could become among the most profitable of my career. But again, I just can't give away this secret right here in this video. Here's why. For nearly 20 years, I worked as a hedge fund manager in Manhattan. My clients were some of the wealthiest people in the world. A handful were billionaires with access to the best Wall Street hedge funds. But rather than start another hedge fund, I've decided to do something different. I'm now taking a very different approach, launching a project that can benefit people from all walks of life. Teachers, doctors, lawyers, small business owners, retirees, you name it. My new business, Empire Financial Research, is based in New York City. I've teamed up with a group of fellow Wall Street veterans to find safe and profitable investment ideas, many of which you've probably never heard of and aren't likely to hear about anywhere else. We're an independent publisher of financial research, which means we don't own or trade the stocks we recommend, and we don't accept advertising. The only way we can stay in business is by giving you great ideas and advice so you can have a chance to achieve great investing results. To me, this just feels like a much better business model compared to charging exorbitant fees to a handful of already wealthy people. And part of the reason I made this switch is because today I want to share my best ideas with like-minded folks from all walks of life. This has always been important to me. I didn't come from money, and I'm still one of the most frugal people you'll ever meet. For example, I'm sure I was the only guy from my Harvard Business School class to spend a night in a youth hostel at a recent meetup. I was also one of the founders of Teach for America, served on the boards of more than a dozen nonprofits, taught introductory economics to high school and college students, and won the John Whitehead Social Enterprise Award from the Harvard Business School Club of New York. The point is, as part of my new venture, you can access my best ideas at a fraction of what you used to have to pay me as a hedge fund manager. You don't have to pay me the 2% of assets and 20% of profits fees that hedge funds typically charge. You don't have to pay the $5,000 I've charged for a single investing seminar. Today, access to my best money-making ideas comes at a pittance. It's the best bargain on or off Wall Street. Before I give you the pricing details and show you how to get started, let me tell you about one final TaaS investment I think you should make immediately to take advantage of the massive opportunity before us today. There's one more TaaS investment my team uncovered recently, which we strongly recommend you make right away. It's a small company you've almost certainly never heard of. You have to take an extra step or two to buy it, but we think it will be well worth it. In short, this company's technology is needed in all self-driving and autonomous cars. And right now, the small company's materials are used in 20% of the entire global market. If we're right about our projections, this company's revenue could quadruple over the next 5 years. And if that plays out as we expect, you will likely make an absolute killing. Since the beginning of last year, the stock price has jumped almost 40%, but we think it has much, much higher to go. And like I said, I would bet just about anything you've never heard of it. I'd never heard of it either until my team brought it to my attention. What's great is this is a well-established, already profitable company, which happens to be in the exact right place at the exact right time, as its technology is now critical for electric and self-driving cars. I love this investment because there's a good chance one of two things will happen in the next few years. The share price will continue to soar much higher, or the company will get bought out at a significant premium. Either way, you win. Of course, all investments carry risk, and this, like my other recommendations, is no exception. Past performance also doesn't guarantee success, and this speculation may not be for everyone. You could do just fine by putting your money in the other investments I've already told you about so far, but we think this speculation is one worth taking. That's why we just put everything you need to know in a new special report called The TaaS Speculation: How to Quadruple Your Money in the Next Few Years. Here's how to get a copy in your hands immediately in the next few minutes. Okay, so I've told you about 3 special reports so far, which I want to send you right away. The #1 way to profit on the electric vehicle boom, the 2 critical driverless technologies you must own today, and the TaaS Speculation: How to Quadruple Your Money in the Next Few Years. These reports are just the first things I want to send you when you start a no-risk trial subscription to my new comprehensive investment research advisory called the Empire Stock Investor. On the first Friday of every month, I'll send you my latest report and newest money-making recommendations. My team and I will also show you exactly how to allocate a portfolio across our recommendations to maximize your potential gains, just like I did for my hedge fund clients for nearly 2 decades. This way, you will never find yourself wondering what you should do with new stocks I recommend. Plus, every day the markets are open, I'll send you my daily email addressing the most important issues affecting you and your money. You may have read other investing emails before, but I guarantee you've never had access to anything like my daily report. At least 5 billionaires currently subscribe. One of them is Joel Greenblatt, who manages $9 billion at Gotham Capital, who recently said, "I met Whitney in my class at Columbia Business School. We've become good friends. He's an excellent investor and most importantly, a great teacher. I'm going to enjoy being a subscriber to his new research service." Another person on my email list is John Petrie, who manages about $1 billion. He said, "Whitney is one of the most connected investors I've met. He's been able to tap into an infinitely deep and unique network of people to come up with great insights into ideas and develop them that other people just can't do because they don't have the kind of network he does." I truly believe my daily email is the best place to find and exchange investing ideas in the world today. There's simply nothing else like it. And when you start a subscription to my Empire Stock Investor, I'll immediately add you to my daily email list. To sum up, by taking advantage of this offer today, you will receive the #1 way to profit on the electric vehicle boom, the 2 critical driverless technologies you must own today, the TaaS speculation, how to quadruple your money in the next few years, and the next 12 months of Empire Stock Investor. I'll send you a new report on a new investment idea and any changes to our model portfolio on the first Friday of every month, 12 issues in all. My daily email, each day the markets are open. Soon you'll be part of a small collection of like-minded folks, which includes some of the wealthiest and richest investors in America. Plus full access to all of my archived research reports and recommendations, including a very valuable report called The Perfect Portfolio, and another detailed analysis called The Industries Most Affected by the Driverless Car Revolution. So, how much does this all cost? Well, that might be the best part. Frankly, I believe I could easily sell the package I put together today for thousands or possibly tens of thousands of dollars to wealthy investors. But I'm on a different type of mission today. I know there are a lot of people out there, normal people like my mom and dad who met and married in the Peace Corps in 1962 and are both teachers, who don't know what to do with their money right now. Should they sell all their stocks, buy more, and what should they buy? Well, the first thing for anyone who wants to dramatically grow their wealth in the next few years is to take advantage of all the investment ideas I'm going to send you in the reports I've described. Remember, the autonomous vehicle market is projected to grow from $54 billion in 2019 to $556 billion in 2026. Along the way, many people are going to get rich. The time to get in is now. Like I said, we are just starting to see a frenzy in some of these companies. Just in recent weeks, one big company in the EV space shot up 70% in 2 trading sessions, while another big company doubled in price in a single day. Folks are finally just starting to catch on to this incredible trend, so don't miss out. There are other smart steps you should take with your money today, too. For example, since launching my new business a little more than a year ago, and even with the COVID-19 pandemic, we've already seen gains of as high as 219%, 83%, 78%, and 149%, just to name a few of the gains across all of our research. And today, you can get full access to my research on the huge boom taking place with electric cars, autonomous vehicles, and TaaS. Plus my monthly newsletter, Empire Stock Investor, where I offer investment ideas and update you on any adjustments I make to the model portfolio. And my daily letter, where I share investment ideas from my giant network of contacts in the investing community, for just $49. The regular retail rate for my work is $199 per year, and some of my readers pay as much as $5,000 per year. But you can save 75% off the regular rate by taking advantage of this special trial subscription offer. I promise you, this is by far the best deal in the investment world today. For about the price of an inexpensive dinner for 2, you can radically transform your retirement finances over the next few years. Even better, this trial subscription is 100% risk-free. After reviewing everything I'll send you, if you decide for any reason that my research isn't right for you in the next 30 days, no problem. Simply give our member services team a call and they'll promptly refund 100% of your money. In other words, you have absolutely nothing to lose and a great deal to gain when you take me up on this generous offer today. I look forward to having you on board my new venture. You may have subscribed to an investment newsletter before, but I promise I'm going to be sharing ideas with you every weekday that aren't anything like what you have seen before. To get started and to access everything I've described here, in a matter of minutes, simply click the Order Now button below. This will take you to a secure order form where you can review everything here before submitting your order. You'll have access to all of my reports, research, and my fully allocated model portfolio in a matter of minutes.